Greetings, I'm Demonac, and rather than just a regular sort of extras video about the recent Legends from my D&D campaign, Angel's Master, I thought I'd do more like a director's commentary, except unlike a real director's commentary, I'm going to pause whenever I feel like it, because that way I can actually talk about things instead of just all blurring past and me making no sense. So, yeah, Legends from my D&D campaign, I really wanted to just call it The Master, or just Master or something like that, but in the end, it made more sense to brand it Angel's Master. Just make it clear so that people who follow the episodes and don't necessarily watch a lot of my other crud might figure out, oh, this really is something you probably want to see. It's about Angel. So I kept the old crappy choir from previous videos because I didn't have time to go and make a whole new one. If I do, I want to make... I really wanted custom music for this whole video. But anyway, that rock is... If you want a cool looking terrain feature, do like a Google search. If you do a Google search for a cool rock, you may find a cool rock. Did my own version, copied it. Honestly, the picture I got it from, I have no idea the scale. So I had to decide on how big it should be. I wondered how many people, the first time they see this video, even notice there's a form there that could be maybe someone sitting. I mean, it's a pretty odd sort of shape. I don't think you noticed. But I would hope that everyone on second view, they'd be like, oh shit, it's that rock! So that's pretty cool. Anyway, this whole thing at the beginning, you notice I've got like the sunrise that I'm trying to do. I don't know why they waited until sunrise. They probably should have gone earlier at night, but I think there's something of an advantage because the enemies are probably expecting an attack more at night, and as the sunrise comes up, maybe they're lowering their defenses a little bit more. They're like, okay, well, we got through the night, it should be fine. But also, it could be messing up with vision a little bit because, of course, light changes dramatically around this time. And I did my best with the visual effects to try and show this, but yeah, obviously not that great because I'm a noob at this, and also I'm colorblind, so that really doesn't help me to sort out the sunrise type stuff. But yeah, just got the guards patrolling this field of plants that's there. But I was trying to go for sort of a Samurai Jack tribute sort of feel here. Why we have very simplified sort of art, for at least the first half of it. Just trying to show don't tell for once. It's really odd for me. There's this camp. You see that, okay, it's like a military camp, it looks like. They've got guards patrolling, guard looks. We have that classic sort of Kuotoa, my eye is complex sort of animation I've used previously. Oh! Hopefully that was a little bit of a surprise there. But yeah, we notice I'm using the laziest possible way of doing these guys. On the one hand, it makes sense because if I want to show that they're moving fast, I gotta kind of show that their cloaks extend out like that. But obviously, it also means that I didn't have to draw their legs when they were moving because I was doing this already took for goddamn ever, and that's with me using every trick I could think of to try and get decent visual effects, a decent portrayal of whatever I was trying to animate, and still somehow actually look and not take forever to do. Get them hiding behind the crates here. And yeah, hand signs are definitely a thing for like the organization way that they communicate often because, of course, doesn't make sound. They have things, but they have both signs that they use for stuff like this, tactical signs, but also they have signs for communicating things subtly in a crowd. Try and let people know without telling everyone, hey, we're members of some secret group, we're doing weird hand motions. You don't want to show that off, but these are more straightforward tactical signs. I like on the crates, that symbol there, I know it looks a lot like the hazmat symbol for explosives, is actually a little bit too much on the nose for that. But it's really, I figured out, because the ancient Kuar, that's the Kuotoa language, the ancient Kuar writing started out as these sort of triangular glyphs, where they sort of draw the two sides of the triangle, and they use the space inside to make an image of something. Now, as pictograms, they were usually trying to communicate as much as possible with that one image. But they had all these sort of abstract images in the writing. And in modern times, they developed an alphabet. The Kuar language does have a proper, like, a phonetic alphabet, more like most modern languages have. But because they had these old runes, the runes survived in a lot of things. There are a lot of sort of specific names of old things, and like names when they're showing the name of Blibal, their god, stuff like that. You'll see that. Well, there are a lot of these just sort of basic signs, like, hey, explosives. For some reason, now I don't know why that's an ancient sign, but apparently they've had alchemy for a long time. But that symbol sort of survived and stayed in use, even though a lot of places they would use their actual alphabet to spell things out. Just note the explosive's location, and keep moving. Behind this big tent where the general is hiding out. Tried to do that as well as I could with the sneaking in there. Now, I was really worried about this part here, because in my mind, this was like a simple thing that I wanted to show, but when I started actually doing it, I was very worried that people... I hope it succeeded somewhat, that you would get, when you look at this, that someone who is sleepy, who is maybe waking up, that's a blanket covering him. You know, he's opening his eyes, he's sort of looking around, why did I wake up? Then he sees the silhouettes of the guards' bodies, just sort of silhouetted due to the, you know, the rising sun, even though the tent flap is still sort of covering up most of the light. And he's like, oh shit. Grabs a sword that he keeps close to his bed, because he is, of course, competent. It's funny, I wish I had gone back and made my simplistic. I wanted simplistic models for the Kuoto guards, mostly, you know, to keep that sort of Samurai Jack feel, which, from my perspective, I don't have this kind of skills their artists have. So in my perspective, it means going super, super simple. But I wish I had made it look more like they had clothing and uniforms, so that it would be more obvious that he's naked and that that's different, because he, again, just got out of bed. And you can see he's got a 4-poster there in his huge general's tent. But yeah, at least his face, he definitely... You don't know that he's a general, you don't know some of the, like, story background stuff, but at least you get the idea that, like, this guy is way more competent than the other guys, just because he looks angry. I don't know how that works, but it works. Oh, Angel drops down. She gets her chain around his neck, but he did manage to get his blade up there in time. Look at that. She's pulling, as she tightens it, it actually cutting into his face. It's also cutting into his chin down there, as you can see. Very unpleasant for him. Now, there was a lot... Some people noticed in the comments, thought it was an error, which understandably, that this looks like the chain that she currently has in the series, the newer chain, not the chain that she had at the start of the series. And it's true, I used the same model, and I used the same model largely because it was easier to animate, but notice, normally she has it, it's all glowing red, and not so much flame effects, because again, laziness. But normally her modern spike chain is very, very glowy with power and redness to indicate that it's flaming. Whereas this one doesn't have that glow. It's got a little bit of red on it because she's getting some blood on it now. But really, the idea is the chain she started with at the beginning was masterwork, right? So she spent extra on it as a fancy, well-crafted one that gives +1 to hit. This is the one she had before that. So, again, the one she starts the series with the rings, that's a very unusual sort of model for the spike chain. It's a little weird, although I thought it looked cool. It's also would be way harder to animate. So I went with her previous chain, the one she had before that, and it is much easier to animate because it's just like a rope and then the spiky part. So she's choking him out there, but he's got his sword up there, and oh, Master comes off and is like, nope, we're done this. He thuds to the ground. And he gets this very sort of like Batman smile going on there. See them come in, and they don't see anything because we cut through the tent and we're out. Oh, look, now they've been spotted. Remember those explosives? Telegraphing it, he does carry around those little bomblets, little alchemical tricks there. We're zooming out, trying to give an idea of where this rock is. There's that rock from the beginning again, but now we're zooming in. And the music stops. And now the tone of the video is going to change a little bit. We've got that creepy sort of percussive noise for the monitor. And then I really wanted, part of having the fight in the field of grass was like, this is a great place, it'll look cool. There's a huge pain in the ass because, again, I am a crappy artist, I have no experience in animation, and I need to spend as little time as possible on this element. So, having these guys spread out at different sort of depths relative to the screen in the grassy field, and then having the grass actually move at certain key points to emphasize things. That was a pain in the ass. So there are a couple of layers of grass going on there, and I had to animate it moving as best I could. But yeah, so they're both like surprised. Like that gust of wind was not normal. They know someone's there. You see the master right away. He's like, crap. He knows this is bad news. Angel's looking over there. She's like, what's the deal with this?
So, are you coming out?
And this guy is a talker.
It'd be boring if
I do like my Village
burn down this entire field.
He's got his like fancy clothes. He's obviously way more detailed than the previous art specimens we had, which is another reason why I do wish that I'd made the crappy looking guys at least have a little bit more clothing-y sort of art. Although the idea was that they would be super, black and white abstract at the start, and then that as the sun rose a little bit more, I would put in more color and detail. Never ended up doing that because it was a pain, and I was having a hard time figuring out how to show the effect of the sunrise on everything else very well, because again, bad at art. But like he's got his fancy clothing. He's got like the Deathfin symbol with like, and you notice the triangular Kuo-toa rune underneath, right? So he has the Deathfin symbol, and then that triangular rune is the rune for the monastery that he comes from, which I don't think there's ever a big shot of it for you to see, but he's from Blood Mountain. That's a monastery that specializes in what you might call kung fu wizards. Woosha! The art of they definitely train in martial arts. They train with their unarmed strike and all that fancy stuff, but to a way lesser degree than the monitors from the other monasteries tend to, because they focus on blending it with magic, a lot of self-buffing, and magic is pretty powerful. When you combine that with someone who actually has hit points and stats, they can be pretty rough at what they do, even though they do it in a different way. It does give them some other flexibility. I also like that he has the Deathfin symbol even on his cufflinks. It's just he likes to show off. Snaps his fingers, kind of the somatic component. Master's telling him like, do not move. I think Angel's got it figured out. That yeah, if he doesn't want her involved at all, obviously he's worried about her getting hurt. She obviously wants to help, but I think she's already getting the idea that if he's that serious, he may not be coming back. But she's still hoping, right? I mean, like, he's a badass. This guy comes in, usually targets are dead before they even know what's happening. He is a very skilled assassin. But here we bring up something that a lot of people, I don't know how much it had come up previously in extras and stuff like that, but yeah, the fact that
It's not just a monitor, it's a Deathfin.
The unwebbed fingers. Because that's something that the Deathfins undergo a ritual, right? That when they achieve the rank of Deathfin, which involves very difficult trial, they have this ritual wherein they very slowly and painfully have the webbing, the flesh between their fingers burned away, or at least that's how it's usually described, somehow burned away, whether you're not sure if it's acid or flame, it's got to be like some kind of magic or alchemy involved, because they do it in such a way that it leaves no scars. They claim this is because at their level of performance, this is a Deathfin monitor, even the wind resistance from the webbing on their fingers could make a difference, or especially the water resistance if they're striking underwater. Now, whether or not that's true, it's still very meaningful to whether or not that really makes an aerodynamic difference, seriously. It definitely is very symbolic. It's very important to them, because when you achieve the rank of Deathfin, that is some serious stuff. You get access to secret techniques, which most Deathfins won't even be able to master the majority of the secret techniques of their monastery. But maybe if one or two of those scrolls contains a technique that you can somehow learn, then you can become vastly more powerful than you were before. And of course, you were already pretty powerful if you were able to pass the Deathfin trials. So, anyway, his cockiness is fairly well-founded.
Explosion was close to the general's tent. Did you fight him? Or just blow him up?
I'd be a little disappointed if you just blew him up. Oh! There's a failed sneak attack number 1. And this is where we run into the problem. Angel's Master is very effective. He's extremely competent. He is a deadly assassin. But there are 2 big problems here. Problem 1, he's really an assassin. For all the various toolkit and tricks and experience that he has, he's still specialized in getting in and basically killing you before you even know what happens. In game terms, he has a lot of sneak attack dice, and that really adds up. If he can get into like full attack range and sneak attack you with his 2-weapon fighting, he can shred you, right? You do so much damage before the fight even starts. But against a target who is much better at face-to-face fighting, he really needs to get that first hit in. And of course, the monitor here, he's got uncanny dodge. And even if he didn't, or even if he had just the slightest bit of uncanny dodge, he's very high level. And Zakuatoa, they all have pretty ridiculous, like, eyesight, spot checks, and stuff like that. So, ambushing him is not likely to work. But then we run into the other problem, which is...
I stabbed him. It was not a fight.
I see.
Kick. It was obvious that that was a kick. The other problem is that this monitor, I'll tell you, his Deathfin Zokuno, he is significantly higher level than Angel's unnamed master. I like keeping him unnamed because it's mysterious. A lot of people saw Rough in the title of the video and thought I meant that her master's name was Rough. That was kind of unintended. That was more that I would like to come back and revisit this at some future point. Give it custom music, because some people commented they liked the music. I like the music. I used some of the best music I have, but I was reusing music that was meant for other things. I don't like it because that sort of devalues my Rahj music at the start and my Vampire King theme in this part. And also, I just would like to have more like custom music for this, but this already took way too long, so I wasn't going to do that. But yeah, Deathfin Zokuno here, though, he is significantly higher level, so that's 2 huge strikes against the Master, and
I don't know why we even have a military.
I guess to sit around
We need
monologuing.
troops, soldiers to capture and hold territory, to defend.
But yeah, the monitors do tend to have a
We
lot
don't
of
need this
disdain
country
for
or its people.
just about everyone.
If the Emperor would spare a few
So he's
monitors,
still
we
burning
could
the field. I'm not
exterminate
sure
all
exactly
Europe.
what fire spell he's using there. That's a little bit of dramatic license. 'Cause normally he's got Scorching Rays. I'm not making that look like Scorching Rays, and probably wouldn't light the field on fire. He could have memorized something different, though. I mean, Burning Hands, it would make a lot of sense that Burning Hands would light a field on fire, although it probably wouldn't shoot out in a jet line like that. But yeah. This, I kind of wanted to do this early on, where I have the flames reflected in his eye, and I didn't think I was going to do it. But then I thought of a way to, I realized it actually would not be that hard if I used mask layer properly. So I'm glad I went back and put it in, even though it's a bit of a subtle effect.
Nothing left to defend
But
against.
I like, now he's got the field lit on fire kind of around him. I've got that sort of transparent smoke effect that I'm overlapping and I'm moving.
No,
I'm pretty happy with that, because it does look fairly smoky.
You can fight as fast as you run your mouth.
Yeah, the Master is not much of a talker, but he's got to respond here. Like when his weapon got caught there, the first sneak attack, his weapon gets caught, and people think that, what he's saying there is pretty badass, it was not a fight, whatever. Mostly it's like, you just sneak attacked a guy, and you got totally pwned. Like, you were caught, he saw through your sneak attack, it failed completely and utterly, he's grabbed your hand. You gotta say something, because if you don't say anything, then you look really weak in that situation. So he's trying to keep up the facade here, but yeah, he does not actually say all that much. It's the monitor who does all the talking, because I like talky villains. Of course, I'm not sure the fields were quite that burning, but I do like this shot. Especially when he's got his mouth open. He looks very Jack Skellington. And that's one of those things Not Jack Skellington specifically, but that's one of those things about death fins that often comes up in the literature, and Kuo-toa have literature, other races have literature. It's there. Once you cut away the fins from their fingers, like the webbing, their fingers look really skeletal, and it gives them sort of this extra layer of menace, especially if you're used to seeing other Kuo-toa. So between Kuo-toa, they're used to everyone's got all the webbed fingers, so when they see one who has those thin, spindly, unwebbed fingers, that is scary. It's intimidating, even if they didn't know what it means. And if they know what it means, that is some creepy stuff. It would hurt their swim speed, but yeah, by the time you're a death fin monitor, you can compensate for that. It's fine. Anyway, Jack Skellington, his crazy laugh, I was very happy with I managed to get the laugh pretty much just the way I wanted it to.
That is the funniest thing I have heard on land. For that, I will let you live long enough to appreciate the humor.
Yeah, as we've all seen, it's not just that, like, oh, I'm a monitor, I'm so badass, and you think you're making fun of my speed. This guy in particular is obsessed with speed. He's addicted to speed. Is way beyond what is normal for a monitor. So here he is dodging all these attacks. Some people thought that, I don't know, people were arguing over whether or not the Master landed a blow the entire fight. I would say no, but you can argue one place. So I like that. There's this expression on his face when he's like, "What? Where did that sword go?" Then you look back, just in case, because you might not have realized when he held up that empty hand. You're like, what's going on? He obviously looked at it with his eyes, but then you see back like, oh, he's got one of the swords. Just took it away. And I like how he looks down at the sword, and he looks back up at his opponent, just sort of casually throws it away without looking, and then that grin. His grin just widens. This was a bit of a long shot, but I really liked the grin, so I felt it was worth it. Of course, I have time on the music, too.
It's over, I'm
back, and he's got a plan for everything. He is not giving up yet by any stretch. Like, okay, this guy is way too fast. It is not normal. I'm going to use my fancy Elven Dispelling Scroll. Try and take out that haste so I can even the playing field. Although now he's fighting... There's that kick, which some people probably counted as landing a blow. To me, that's like a knee block, right? I mean, technically, it did connect, and maybe that was hit point damage, I don't know, but that was clearly intentionally blocking with his knee, like a Muay Thai sort of block. Yeah, he's not looking as happy now, though. He's hopping back, I mean, he's actually making progress, and then, oh, I'm sorry. I was actually just faking it. You didn't get my speed at all. No, send him back there. He slides it, and he puts his sword in the ground to help him skid there. I like that. He gets way too close in the scene. It's just kind of the way that I ended up animating it. It was too much of a pain to change. So he's got... we telegraphed before that he had these little spheres, explosives. But then, what's this? I really wanted to do this shot. The rewind effect was maybe a little bit too blatant, but... because, again, the quality of animation I have, I don't have the skill to do a really obvious, like, slow-mo rewind and make it really clear that's what's happening, so you're not confused. So I used the literal, like, VHS-style rewind special effects there that I made, like crappy special effects. But I think it gets it across that was a rewind. Let's see that again in slow motion. He's unleashing all these little explosive spheres. Look how slow they're moving, and then... no. Just casually walking across while everything's in slow motion, snatches a couple of these little spheres. From his point of view, he sees his opponent disappear in this cloud of explosions as intended. And then I had a really hard time showing what I wanted to here. That he appears and bam. It's basically, like, I tried to animate there, but it just, like, flops down. It's really hard for me, without slowing it down further, to show what you would want to show, which is his body convulsing away as he gets hit by a couple of the little blasts. But I did the best I could.
It does take sorcery to move like I do, but you cannot dispel this. Tazek's Wakwara. It's in my blood.
It's in my blood is a little bit of a weird line to me, because he's from Blood Mountain, And it makes total sense with the way that he gets his speed, but it actually sounds like a different monastery. Like, that sounds more like something that the Sons of Baal monastery would say. Because I said he's from Blood Mountain, right? Death and Zokuno here, and they're kung fu wizards. Like, they're full-on spell casting mixed with their martial arts. The Sons of Baal, they believe that their powers are almost more divine, that literally come from that legend where Blabal instilled her blood into the Kuo-toa. The reason that they are more powerful than other races, that they were able to take over the sea, and all these great benefits that they got from it. The Sons of Baal choose their members. They're supposed to be more pure, that they have a higher amount of the blood of Baal within them. So they tend to have more supernaturally powers, they're not spellcasting based. They had to have a lot of freak powers. But they're much more likely to talk about how their power is in their blood. But I thought it made sense for this guy. And of course, you can't dispel his speed. You guys can try and guess in the comments what prestige class he has. I'm sure some of you probably know, and some of you who don't know are going to look it up and be like, oh my god, that's crazy. 3.5 edition prestige class, where he gets a lot of his abilities. And when you start to see that, you'll start to understand why he is so insanely overpowered here.
I can still...
Oh, that had to hurt. Yeah, it is not a good sign when your opponent is toying with you to the point that they can just remove body parts from you at will. Ouch. You notice, this guy has 2 different speed special effects, though. Because he has that sort of red flash, which barely seen. I don't know how obvious it is to people who didn't spend a whole bunch of time animating it. But certainly, sometimes he just seems to disappear and reappear where he wants to be. And then sometimes he has the lightning. That's because that lightning is a spell from the Complete Mage. I should have looked up the name, but it's a level 5 spell found in Complete Mage. It's basically a lightning bolt spell, except the caster travels the length of the lightning bolt and ends up at the destination. I've obviously taken a little bit of liberties with it here because he lightning bolted in and out, which is probably not something he could do. Although I guess if he really, really wanted to, he's pretty powerful. But yeah. When your opponent takes your hand, like taking a sword was one thing. The fact that he can just take your hand, you are so screwed.
I'm sorry, that was rude of me.
It really was.
I said I would let...
Oh, that stings too. Just like he randomly threw the sword aside, he just randomly throws the hand aside. As far as we can tell, he doesn't know Angel's there. She did survive, after all. And she is lower than level 5 at this point, because she was level 5 when we started the campaign. But, oh, that so sucks. Your master's hand is thrown basically right at your feet, just that little tinge of blood on the grass.
That you live long enough to appreciate the irony, and I have. But there's no call to torture you further.
See, oh, that's nice of him. Dude, I know you have to block this. I know you thinking that, but judging by the amount of blood gushing out of your arm, I think blocking may be a moot point. I like that. Again, with the grass moving. I wanted it in the grass field because just those few moments where the grass moves, it does look pretty good. I'm actually surprisingly happy with my crappy, like, I'm getting serious with my martial arts now hand positions for him. They actually looked okay. Oh, the lightning again. The clothesline. Oh, that hurts. Launcher. And see, he lightning bolts over, but then he uses his other method of speed to disappear there. Interesting. And we have the DBZ. Ow. Skidding to a stop. And of course, Zokuno's already in front of him. And now he's down to that, I am so dead, I'm kind of getting delirious, kind of laughing. Oh, that sucks.
What's that?
I can't quite hear what you're saying, but as you finally seem to be aware of how powerful I really am, I'd be
delighted to find out what you have to say. Make it good.
You run your mouth pretty fast. But you can't outrun your own stench.
Okay, not the most inspired insult in the history of mankind, but he's doing the best he can. He's missing an arm, and many of his internal organs are no longer functioning after that last beating. Like, he only has so many hit points to go around. He's got to get out something as his, like, sort of last gasp there.
Pardon, I didn't catch that last part.
Oh, sure you didn't. I wanted to just blow him up, just have him disintegrate, but this particular flame effect, it's just basically the same flame effect as everywhere else, except everywhere else I was using it in such a way that you didn't see the end, and I'm gonna have to find, if I do ever come back to this and revisit, I gotta find a way to make this not look like shit, because this just looks like shit. If it looked good, then I could have it clearly disintegrate his body and just have, like, bits of black dust floating down, which there is, but I had to go with, I felt I had to go with the charred, blackened corpse flying off there, just because to make it clear what happened, because I just felt like the special effect was not up to the task. Although some people noted that, well, you don't 100% know he's dead. I know, dude. You just keep hoping, but he's not getting up. Oh, that was poorly timed. Yeah. I really like that. To me, that was important to me. Which may seem odd, because it's just exasperated sigh, it's just like little grumbly sort of noise, but that's where you can tell. That's where you get that, as much as it wasn't the best insult known to mankind, the fact that other guy said something that, even for just the slightest second, pissed him off enough that he, finished it immediately, just threw him off a little bit. He was all having fun, cat and mouse, just playing around. The fact that his opponent, even after his body was crushed and battered, still had that defiance, somehow just took a lot of the joy out of it for Zokuno. It has that, just that little grumble there at the end lets you know that the Master, he did get in that little bit of a moral victory, combined with, of course, the fact that his sacrifice did mean Angel survived. She is not too happy with Kuotoa. So anyway, that was what happened to Angel's Master. She had given me some, she'd previously given me some description. She just said, oh, my master was killed by a deathfin. It wasn't a whole lot more than that. There were some details, like her master wasn't another gnome. He was actually a human. I wanted to show his face at some point, but then, as much as the latter half of the video was more detailed, and I don't think it would have been bad, I think it was going to come out less unified. I think I was better off just sticking to what was working there, rather than trying to fit in his face and, yeah, just, even though I just wanted to show kind of like the bottom half of his face in different lighting, but the rest of it obviously wasn't caring about the lighting, so why was I going to continue messing around with that? I don't know. So, I did the best I could. But yeah, that was an exercise into me trying to animate things and largely trying to see what I could accomplish that way. And there was a similar exercise between that and the thing with much worse sound quality, if you can imagine. My What If Care Bears Were a Shonen Anime. That's another one I did. It was really an animation experiment to see how much I could do. And honestly, my heavy metal sort of Care Bears look pretty cool, but there were some special effects in that one that I was pretty proud of too. So I'm trying to expand my tool set, but I really need to not get into this degree of animation the vast majority of the time in Tales from My D&D campaign, because it already takes way too long for the videos, as I'm sure you all agree. I really want to be going simpler on them, but it's harder because the more that I see that I can do, the more I want to do. It's a vicious cycle of trying harder when I really would like to be trying faster. But anyway, thanks for watching. That was my director's cut of, or my director's commentary, I should say, not director's cut. Director's cut will be if I put out another version of this and don't have rough in the name of it. That was my director's commentary, such as it is. I hope it was interesting in some way, shape, or form for you. And we'll just have to catch you next time.